Stella's best friend is Pooh. Hey guys, it's Seji, and today I wanted to talk about the book 5 Feet Apart by Rachel Lippincott. It was originally a screenplay written by Mickey Doughty and Tobias Yakonis. I wanted to say two things beforehand. If you want to read this book for free, you can on the Riveted site until I think December 31st. Also, there will be a few spoilers, but then this thingy will pop up so that you know when to switch off your sound if you don't want to know what happens. Having said that, let's start. The book is a contemporary love story about a boy and a girl called Will and Stella who meet at a hospital. They both suffer from a disease called cystic fibrosis, which mainly affects the lungs, causing for thick mucus and frequent lung infections. Catching an infection from another person who has CF can be lethal, so Will and Stella have to stay at least 6 feet apart from each other at all times. And you probably already guessed it, despite all of this, they still fall in love. When I started reading, it reminded me of a girl that I used to check up on sporadically on YouTube called Claire Wineland, who had CF, and turns out this book was dedicated to her. Just like Claire, Stella documents her battle with CF on YouTube, and unfortunately Claire passed away this September after a lung transplant, and having followed her for some time made this a very emotional read, and I'm very happy that this book addresses the struggle that people who have CF, or for that matter are terminally ill, go through. And as an effort to help spread awareness, I've left some links to some lung/CF foundations and Claire Wineland's YouTube channel in the description box below. What interested me the most was the effect that an illness can have on a person and also their environment. Both Stella and Will have their own philosophy on what life is and what it means to live. Stella tries to take as much control as she can of her life by following her regimen as rigorously as she can. Will, however, doesn't really see this as living. He questions what the use of being alive is if you're just going to stay locked up in a hospital. He's traveled all over the world to find a cure for his bispecia, which is an antibiotic-resistant bacteria. And yet he feels like he's always been in the same space, the same white walls of the hospitals. Looking at the impact on family and friends, we see that Will and Stella don't really have a lot of friends. Specifically Will, because he hasn't been in school for quite some time. Stella's best friend is Poe, but he also has CF, so the 6 feet apart rule also holds for him. It's the moment when Poe and Stella try to comfort one another that are the most heartbreaking, and that you realize how important human touch can be, and how painful it can be not to be able to experience that with some people. With regards to family, Will's father left because he couldn't deal with his son having CF. However, his mom always tried her best to combat the disease. Will ends up feeling like his mom is obsessed with trying to cure his bispecia, and thinks she can only see his CF rather than himself as a person. This causes a huge rift between the two. The death of Stella's sister took a huge toll on both her parents, and they ended up divorcing each other. This left Stella with both feelings of survivor's guilt and fear that her parents would not be able to cope if she passed as well. To me, it was very heartbreaking to read about all the weight that Stella was carrying. One thing I really liked was the title, because throughout the book everyone's like 6 feet apart, 6 feet, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, and I was like, did they just mess up the title? But as I read further, I realized that it was a sign of resilience towards CF. Stella talks about all the things that CF has stolen from her, and when she proposes to go on a date with Will, she says that they're going to stay 5 feet apart, stealing 1 feet from CF. The book cover is also very aesthetically pleasing. Besides the boy and the girl in the middle, you also have these beautifully drawn lungs, and they are supposed to, I guess, resemble the drawing that Stella's sister made for Stella when she went on one of her hospital visits. I think it also embodies Stella's dreams of having lungs as healthy and lively as these. Okay, so those were all of the things that I liked or thought were interesting about the book, and now I'm going to be talking about some of the critical points that I had. I did not like Will. He had a very bland character and he was kind of like your typical dream boy, bad boy guy. And I typically don't think that that is disqualifying, but there were a few things as well that he did where I was kind of like, no. The first one was letting his friends have sex in his hospital bedroom. It was just super weird and so unnecessary. Second is that he immediately objectifies Stella. He's all like, whoa, she's super hot. If I'd known, I'd check her out earlier on YouTube. And the third one, and this is the one that pisses me off the most, is that he has besaphasia, which took him off the donor list. And he starts walking around in the hospital without his mouth cap, endangering other people's chances for getting a donor is just very irresponsible and selfish. Then at some point Stella's friend Poe, who is a person of color and queer, suddenly dies, which pushes Stella to start living her life for herself rather than just for the sake of living. I didn't like how it was done and it felt like his death was used to push the story forward. This was mainly apparent in the aftermath because his death was handled poorly. It just didn't sit right with me. It was as if the moment that Poe died he had served his purpose and now he was all of a sudden redundant. One thing that really surprised me was how energetic the characters were. I mean, they were walking around the hospital, running up and down stairs, and I was just thinking, one has besaphasia and the other one has lungs functioning at 30%. And then when they go to the gym on the bike, they're tired within 5 minutes. It was just a bit silly. Lastly, at the end, Stella gets a message that there is a pair of lungs for her. And she's like, meh, just because she met someone like, what, 2-3 weeks ago and loves him and wants to spend the rest of her life with him? When you've waited a lifetime and have been obsessed with trying to stay alive? Nah, bruh. To me, that just came across as very ungrateful and kind of a slap in the face for people who wait on the donor list for such a long time, even dying. Either way, I hope that the movie will be better than the book. I will definitely be watching it in March when it comes out, so stay tuned for a review. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.